Welcome to Decentralized Energy Canada Spotlight Series. Today I'm joined by Glen Gordon, who is the CEO and co-founder of Unico Power. Hi Glen, how are you?
Hey, Rachel, nice to see you, and thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, nice to have you here. Who is Unico and what problem are you solving?
Unico Power, we're founded in Calgary in 2017. We're based here and in Vancouver, and right now we're helping condo owners charge their electric vehicles at home. That's a big challenge for condo owners, and certainly in Vancouver there are a lot of condo owners and a lot of EV owners. So we provide both the hardware and the software to help them charge, and then we really just help them charge more cars for less power and therefore less cost. But what we're really doing is demand management. So we are shifting the demand for EV charging to when it's cheapest or when there's the most supply available. And then that energy management system we deploy is also going to support a lot of other features as buildings start to adopt things like solar and PV, and maybe even, Vancouver is surprising the amount of air conditioning that's being added, right? So for decades, nobody in Vancouver had air conditioning. Now they're adding a lot. So all these electrification of things, I like to call it, we can coordinate that with our energy management system. So that's what we do.
So what is your unique selling point as compared with your competitors?
Well, I think that's it. So we're an energy management company, and so we look at trying to balance that demand with supply and smooth things out. And so EV charging can obviously create a big peak. And what we do is make sure that we charge in coordination with what else is going on in the building. So what makes us unique is we monitor and we look at what the rest of the building's doing. So if the load is already high due to air conditioning, as I mentioned, or due to other things, elevators, certain times of the day it just gets load get higher, we turn the charging down. And because we know what's going on in the building, we know when to turn it down. So that's sort of what makes us unique. The other thing that's unique about us is when you're controlling loads, one of the biggest challenges is actually talking to those things where they are. And in our case with electric vehicle chargers, they're in parking garages, which are made of concrete and steel, often very, very deep. So communicating with the charger to turn it up and down becomes one of the biggest challenges. And if you've ever been in a parkade in P5 trying to make a cell phone call, you realize that this doesn't work down there. So, and predominantly Wi-Fi and cellular are the two control mechanisms that are used. We use a technology called LoRa, which stands for long range radio. So it's kind of like Wi-Fi, different frequency, but as its name implies, it goes a long way. So it's perfect for controlling things that are in buildings. So we can control chargers that are down in P6 deep in the dungeon, and we do have buildings that have 8-layer parking garages. And we can also control things way up on the roof or anywhere in the building using this long range. So that makes us a bit different. Most companies use LTE, the cellular network, or if they use Wi-Fi, they end up having to really put a lot of access points all throughout the building. So it starts to become a communication project more than an electricity and demand management project.
Mm-hmm. So how is Unico Power contributing to social development and sustainability?
Well, we're spoiled in this country when it comes to electricity. We've got a really reliable grid. And I think when people plug into a wall, they picture this infinite ocean of electricity behind there. Mm-hmm. Like you're never going to plug in and it says, hey, sorry, I don't have enough electricity for you, right? So, but as we grow and as we go into this electrification of things, and we start adding things like air conditioning in Vancouver, and you think about the impact that can have, electric vehicles, the same thing. I mean, these are loads that buildings just were never designed to use. Mm-hmm. So if we want to actually grow in the use of transportation, to be sustainable, we have to use less. So, the way I look at it is when we have water conservation, people understand if you start drawing a whole bunch of water really fast out of a big pipe out of a river, the river starts to dry up or the lake starts to drop. And people say, hey, we should be using less water because you can see the lake level down, right? Well, we can't see that with electricity, but it's the same thing. So, as we move forward, what we want to do is make sure that when you charge a car, if you can run your home and charge your car with a garden hose, we're not going to use a fire hose. And that's really what our demand management system is doing. So, you can imagine if you had 50 homes using garden hoses, that might be the equivalent of one home using a fire hose. So the growth is just a lot more sustainable if we manage the amount of power that people take.
Mhm.
That becomes even more important as we move away from sort of 24/7 power generation that we've had in this country for a long time. In certain markets, I mean, if it's hydro, it's still going to be that. But if you're using solar and wind, for example, those are variable. It becomes even more important to match that demand to when the supply is available. Shift your demand.
Absolutely. What milestones have you met as a company?
So like I say, we founded in 2017. We kind of bounced around on which energy management feature we're going to deploy first, and finally settled on EV charging. And so in late 2019, we deployed just 2 buildings in Vancouver. We now have 57 buildings that are operating, both in Vancouver and Alberta. So that's sort of how's the company grown. We got our first revenue in 2019. It was $40,000. And let me tell you, we were thrilled. And after 2 years of trying to sell something, 40,000 seemed like we had hit the big one. Then in 2020, obviously there's some things that impacted. We grew quite a bit. We grew to over $500,000 in revenue, and then last year we topped $1 million. So we're growing very fast on the revenue side. Our challenge is sort of keeping up with the support side for the sales. So sales is, unlike a lot of companies, sales is not really an issue for us. We could probably sell as much as we want. It's the ability to support it that's the challenge. So we have 10 employees now. I think that's probably my most exciting milestone, is that we're starting to become what almost look like a real company, instead of a bunch of guys with 16 hats running around. So that's we hit that this year. We've sort of got, we actually did a budget, those types of things. So I'd say we're not like a Fortune 500 company yet, but certainly aren't the 2 guys or 2 people working in a garage and trying to do everything. And then our biggest project success to date is we're really proud of it, and it's actually here in Calgary, which I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear that. It's in the Aris building in the East Village, a brand new building that BOSA built. So we deployed 100 EV chargers in one building, which is by far the largest single deployment in Alberta. And our largest deployment anywhere. So we're really excited about that we just commissioned that at the end of 2021. So that's kind of how we're doing.
Yeah, congratulations. That's a big project. So it sounds like it's been a bit of a journey. So what lessons have you learned? What were the most important lessons that you learned when you were acquiring funding?
Well, we probably don't have enough time. So I think, when it comes to funding your startup, that's probably the biggest challenge. It certainly is the biggest challenge. You talk to any founder, getting market fit and finding customers is, a big one. But once you have that, and it's like, how do you fund your growth? We went with the traditional, like, you go to anybody and talk to them, well, how do you raise funds? They really designed fundraising for startups around serial entrepreneurs. So what they, the approach, and it's not horrible, but they'll say, listen, the adage, teach a person or sort of give a person a fish and they'll eat for a day, and teach them to fish and they'll eat for a lifetime. So I think when it comes to financing and startups, a lot of people take that approach and say, look, we want to teach you how to do all this stuff. We don't want to just help you, want to do it. But in my case, I don't plan to be a serial entrepreneur. So we kind of followed that approach, and I don't think it was the right approach for us. So we're working now with a company here in Calgary called Tailwinds Associates, and what they're doing is they're saying, listen, we'll help you catch a fish, but you don't have to learn how to, what bait to use and what rod to use, and what, we know all that stuff. You're gonna spend a lot of time trying to figure that out, and you're never gonna have to do it again. So that's one of the biggest lessons we learned, is that understand where you are as a startup, and what you're doing and what your goals are. And if you're not saying, hey, I want to get this company going, and then I want to spin it off in 2 years, and then I want to go do something else, which neither me or my co-founder we're looking to do that. Then I think you need to adjust your approach for that. That's for sure the biggest lesson. And then there's a plethora of other things. Also, when it comes to fundraising, again, it's a lot of work. So if you're working in the company, I hear a lot, hey, you got to stop working in the company and start working on the company. That is great advice, but somebody's got to work in the company, right? So I think that's part of it, is saying, look, if you're going to go do this and you're going to work on the company, you have to make sure that you've got a team in place that can work in the company. And so we probably started to try and raise money while I was still, fully engrossed in working in the company. And now, we've got this team of 10. We've got their awesome team. And yeah, and so now I feel really comfortable that I can say I can go work on the company with tailwinds.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. All right. Well, how do you see Unico evolving into 2022 and beyond? And what's your end goal for Unico?
Yeah, that's a good question. When we started in 2017, people started asking us, like, what's your exit plan? And we're of course saying exit plan. We haven't even started yet. And so this is kind of, again, where the serial entrepreneur, that's something they build into their thing. We just said, hey, we just want to build a business. The end goal for this company is to provide solutions that'll turn your home energy system, or your building energy system, or even your town energy system into an asset. Something that isn't just a cost, something that you can actually get value out of, that you can make money off of. So like a fully automated thing. That's kind of our end goal. And obviously, what we'd like to see is a completely flat, demand curve when it comes to trying to take energy from outside of that unit. So it's from the grid or whatever. So balancing your supply with your demand, batteries are a big part of that sort of thing. That's kind of the end goal. And then personally, for my co-founder and I, we understand that our roles in the company will change as it grows. So, our goal is within 3 years, we'd sort of be in a position where we're big enough now that we're probably not the right people to lead some of those activities. So, I think that's the transition point when we hit that valuation and we hit the company size where we say, hey, this stuff that you're really good at is probably not the best thing for this company right now. And at that point, I, personally sort of see that I'd go into, a role where I still have a lot of influence on the vision, strategy, and that sort of thing. But we run like a larger corporation that we're going to be. So that's our goal, and we expect to be there by 2025.
Okay, that's exciting. All right. Well, my last question is, where can people go to learn more about you?
Well, we're not plastered on social media, but we do have a pretty good website. One of the 10 people that we have on the team now that we used to have is a marketing wizard, and so we've really improved a lot in that sort of information. So that's unicopower.com, and a lot of information on there. And then we're fairly active on LinkedIn. So if you go to LinkedIn and search for Unico Power, and follow us, because we do put regular updates there on some of our projects, things that we're working. And then if people search around, they'll find that we're fairly involved in presentations to things like the Canadian Condominium Institute. And we just had an article published in their magazine for the winter issue that just came out this week. So, you can find information there, but the website's probably the best location.
That's great. We're ready to wrap up this interview.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I love talking about this subject, and I love talking about Unico Power. So yeah, check us out on the web, folks, and reach out to me if you've got any questions. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.